Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we have got the long awaited deep dive into the Officer tool with its creator Stewiedoo. I am really looking forward to this one. We're going to talk about all the functionality of the Officer tool, how to get your information in there, how to use all the different screens and menus to take your game to the next level using a fantastic free community tool put together by Stewiedoo. So without further ado, let's just dive into this and let's get going. So let's start from the beginning, and I am delighted to say that we can finally hear the creator of this tool speak. Stewie, welcome in. Thank you so much for your time today. How are you today, buddy?
I'm doing well, Lube, with a U.
Absolutely. You have to throw me off there, don't you? Come on, we're like 2 minutes into the video and you've thrown me off already. Thanks for that. Brilliant. But no, I'll say this at the start. I'll probably say it 50 times. Thank you so much for all the hard work, effort that you put into these tools. I think they are absolutely fantastic. And thank you for coming on and showcasing this with us. Obviously, it's been a bit of a labour of love of ours. What has it been? 3 years now?
At least that. I've had shorter relationships.
3 years, updated every single month, and we are using the latest version from patch 64 with all the new officers in it, a few other tweaks that we're going to talk about, and we're going to go through everything that this tool can do for you and how to use it. So stay tuned. Remember that there are going to be chapters down in the description if you want to go to a specific section, if there's a bit that takes your fancy, but I suggest everybody watches the whole video because it's good for metrics. But we'll start off with, I'm joking, but we'll start off with obviously the tool navigation, so the page that you'll be greeted as soon as you download the tool. Now, downloading the tool needs to be done first, and you can do that from our Discord. That's the best place to get the most up-to-date information, obviously, for the Officer tool. So the up-to-date sheets on our Discord, you will see there is an Officer tool section. So the STFC Officer tool Discord is linked in the description of the video. There are two links. So one of them is for the Excel version, and one of them is for a Google Sheets version. So what made you go through the painstaking process of using two different formats, Stewie?
Our friend Rev, the lovely ginger fella that he is, insisted that I do a Google Sheets version, and as much as I tried to fight off the urge to do it, I ended up folding and making it. And don't tell him I said this, but it was
absolutely cool. It was a really good call, because what this does, this means it's open for absolutely everybody. So obviously, if you do not have a copy of Excel, if you don't pay for it or you haven't bought it in the past, everybody can access the Google Sheets version, providing that you've got a Google account, which is free for you to download. And that's the one that we're going to use today for our demonstration. So you come to the link to Officer Tools section, download the specific version that you want. They work identically, practically, between the two different versions. So what I'm talking about on Google Sheets will virtually be exactly the same for the Excel version, which is nice. So when you get onto the Officer tool, you'll be greeted by the homepage, which is basically just giving you a brief update and information about what is on each individual tab. There is a link obviously to our Discord server there if you want to get a quick reference back to it, and I will reference, obviously Stewie does do this. It takes a hell of a lot of time. There is a donation link there if anybody wants to support the work that Stewie does. I think it's absolutely fantastic what he does, and you'll see why when we go through this. So I think the next thing we talk about is moving on. So moving on to the bonus tab. So the bonuses tab, what this is doing is this is showing us where all of the different officer stat bonuses come from in game, and this list is ever evolving all the way down to things like we've got forbidden text now, like Nero's Trident, which is improving officer stats. That's in there. Now you can painstakingly, and I will say painstakingly because we've got an alternative now, you can input all of these informations manually. So you can input all of this data manually by looking at it. So I could go there, I'm an Ops 59, so I can type that in there. Your academy bonus. When you are typing bonuses, if we quickly pop back to game, and this works the same for researchers and everything. So if we look at my mess hall, which I know has an officer stat bonus, that's the one that you're going to be looking for. And if you're going to be doing manual entry, the figure that you want to use is the white number, because the white number is the one showing your current bonus. The green one is showing what it would be were you to upgrade that specific building. So that's a commonly, frequently asked question on our Discord, and I just thought I'd point that out, that you always use the white number because that's your current bonus. So you can go down and input all of these informations manually, and obviously it does tell you exactly where they are. So research for prime officers, for example, it's in the galaxy tree and it's in column 2 of row 2. So it's give you a bit of an indication of where to find these individual researchers. On the right hand side of the individual bonuses, it is showing you what it is affecting. Sorry, whether it's affecting all the different stats, so health, defense, and what's the other one? Health, defense, and attack. We're affecting all three of them, whether it's affecting one of them, and then in brackets there it's saying whether it's affecting below decks, just the captain, or just the bridge abilities. So you can see what each individual bonus is physically impacting. Anything else that you want to add on the bonuses sheet before we talk about how to update this a little bit easier?
There is a key at the bottom there as well to remind you of what each of those are.
And that's down there. So if you can't remember from my very, very terrible example, obviously you've got a key there to say where they are. And obviously these ones at the side, you can check them if you've got that specific territory service physically activated for you. And that will always be a manual input. What, Stewie, the territory services?
The territory services are, and they're also auto-updating. So, for example, the advanced officer enhancer, when you click that, it will automatically work out what the bonus is to your ops. Same with the syndicates. If you put in a number in the syndicates, it will automatically work out the syndicate bonuses based on your ops and syndicate level.
Because we know these are tiered based on ops level. So, like for example, I've just changed my ops back to 41. My advanced officer enhancer territory service goes to 125. If I go back to where I am now at 59, it increases it to 200. So it's obviously making that change live. So you would need to do the territory services manually, obviously depending on whether your alliance has those specific abilities. But I think now will be a really good time, because obviously manual entry of all this information sounds quite painful, doesn't it? And we've got some friends, haven't we, that have helped us do this and got to a point where this is much less painful.
Well, yeah, things have grown as well. If you remember, this all used to live on the roster sheet in the early days, and it's increased by so much now that it couldn't fit there anymore.
So it's now got its own specific tab. So now what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk a little bit about Spox Club. So Spox Club is going to be used for us to be able to access and pull all the information from your game. This is a fantastic time saver. I'm going to show you how to do that. So we're going to flick forward a little bit and we're going to jump into the migration tab. So the migration tab towards the end, this is where you are going to be inputting the data if you're doing it manually, and this also works moving it from one sheet to another. So for example, next month when we get M65, or this month in April of 2024, when we get the M65 update, this is where if you was going to be manually updating, you would be doing that information. Also, you would have to use this for stuff that is not on Spox Club. More about that a little bit later, because some stuff that we track on the officer tool is not in Spox Club because it's not specifically in game, it's sort of manual entry, but we're going to explain that later. And note as well, if you are going to be using the copy and paste functions that we talk about, pasting values is another massive frequently asked question about the officer tool for anybody doing manual imports. Make sure that when you are pasting, you only paste values, you don't just paste. So don't just use Control V, you need to paste special and then go to Control V, but we will show you that later. So there is a link directly to Spox Club from this page. So up here you can see that we've got a hyperlink that takes you directly to the officer roster within Spox Club. So you can see that obviously all of my data here is actually already updated from my game, which is absolutely great. And this is live, and we're going to talk about the live version in a second. But there is a manual way to get all the information that's in Spox Club across into the officer tool. So a big question is how did we get this information into Spox Club? So yes, you can manually go through and you can input obviously all your levels and you can change whatever that you need to change. You can do that. However, you have the option. So if we go to the menu up here and we go down to syncing, there are 3 methods that you can use to sync data from your game into Spox Club. And Junebri, the creator of Spox Club, has created a video for how to do this. So you can do it on mobile, you can do it with a desktop app, or you can use the one that I think is the best way to do it, and that's using the community mod. And again, there is a video explaining exactly how to do this. So we're not going to cover that. That's going to be out of scope for this particular video. So if you do want to check out these videos to find out exactly how to sync your data over to Spox Club. So if you have any questions on this, please just drop them in our Discord, more than happy, or even in the comments of the video. I'm more than happy to answer the questions down there, but this is how you're going to do that. So if we go back into the officer menu, obviously we've got all the data imported using the community mod. So when you want to get your information from Spox Club over into the officer tool, you can see that if you go back into the officer menu where we are now, there is an import export button. Now the import from officer tool now is pretty redundant, because I would strongly suggest that you now do it the other way around, whereby you make sure Spox Club is updated, because that's a really quick, seamless process, and then use the export buttons. So you can see there's two options here. There's export officers and there is export bonuses. You will need to complete both of these actions to be able to do this. So if we click export officers to officer tool, it now does that. Officers are now on the clipboard, paste them into the import section of the officer tool. So they're now basically copied. That's like a control copy or whatever that you want to say to do that. So if we go back into our officer tool, this will now allow us, on the migration page, we will be able to go into the import data section, and all you need to do is always remember to click on the top left hand green box that you are importing from. So if we click here, and then if we just literally right click, and remember I said paste values, so right click it, paste special, values only, and that will, after a second or so, import all of our data. You can see it's pulled all of the different information through. So you can see 0718 is level 20 and rank 4. Avix level 30, rank 5. And just to confirm that this is right, look, 0718, level 20, rank 4. If I go back into game, level 20, and he's rank 4. So it's pulled all that accurate data through, and that is all that you need to do to get your officer information through to Spox Club. Obviously, there is then a second step that you need to do over on Spox Club. You need to import the bonuses. Remember I showed you my bonuses were absolutely empty. So if we go back and we export bonuses to officer tool, click that, it copies it to the clipboard, back into the officer tool, into the migration tab, and then go find the bonuses section, which is here. We're going to click the top left hand green box. We are going to right click, we are going to paste values, and that then pulls all them through as well. And if we go back into the bonuses screen, we can now see these have all populated from in-game. Absolutely marvelous. Obviously, you can see down here, when things are brand new, what you might find is that they are not being pulled through yet from Spox Club. So just keep your eye down here. Like, for example, artifacts and FTs, this is showing at 0%. I have this at 0% currently, so this is right for me. But if something is brand new, definitely check it. Is there anything else in relation to sort of migration or importing, exporting, anything you think that you want to add, Stewie, at this point?
Yeah, there is. The Spox Club guys are very lucky in as much as they get the new officer data literally straight from the game on day one, which normally means that when you do an export from them to the officer tool, it's not going to have the new officers there yet, and this can sometimes cause some problems. There is a small workaround that we can do, and if people message us on Discord, then we can talk them through it.
It's very straightforward. We could maybe put a frequently asked questions on our Discord about that one.
Correct,
when there's a new officer. So we'll do that. So when you are on our Discord, just check the FAQ section in the officer tool, and we'll throw that up in there. So if you do encounter that problem, you are able to sort it, because that's going to be a rolling theme, because obviously Spox Club do get the information about the officers slightly quicker than what we do. So what we've done there, obviously we've jumped forward a little bit to get all of our data into the officer tool, and I'm really chuffed about this, because obviously it saves so much time and it's so easy to keep it updated. So after we've done that, we're then going to start looking at the main pages. So we're going to look at the roster page next, Stewie. So talk to me about this roster page. What am I looking at?
Right. Well, the roster page is the heart. It was the first page the officer tool actually ever had when it was a single page tool, and the idea is it emulates the crewing screen within the game. So you've got your bridge officers, 3 at the top, and you have your lower decks below, which is the 7 below there. Now, if you pick an officer that's got a below deck ability, say like Balana, as you can see, she's turned red, which shows that she has a below deck ability.
So how clever is that? So it's actually differentiating the officers that are going to be having some sort of effect for you below deck. Now, one thing, obviously, 7 slots is the maximum, but when you are testing what your bonuses and what your stats are going to be for your officers on a specific ship, remember to only use the slots that you have open. So if you've got a tier 4 auger, for example, that's going to have 3 below deck slots. So don't be filling in number 4, 5, 6, and 7. Just fill out the first 3. So make sure you're emulating from in-game your open slots when you are checking it. And then where does this information then filter to?
More which is actually the roster at the bottom. You've got the officers which have the bonuses already applied to them there, so that you can sort by attack, defense, and health to help you identify officers that best suit the needs that you have. So for example, if you want to up your attack, or if you want to up your defense, you can literally see here what they're going to be. Now the only ones that aren't the only bonuses that aren't included there are situational bonuses, for example on the bridge or below decks, because obviously at this point we don't know where they're going to be on the ship. So those are your basic stats. So if you look at your little table at the top with all the bonuses in them,
Yep.
that's it. So it's just those ones in that section there that are included. Okay, in the all column. So in your instance is the 2178. Yes, there are some Easter eggs.
Anybody finds any more, drop them down in the comments. There are a few of these, and they are great.
Yeah, I think there's about 7 or 8 now.
Every finds them, then give us a shout.
Bear that in mind. That's why a lot of people sometimes get thrown out a little bit, because they say that the officer score doesn't match what's on the tool. Okay, and that's because they're looking to match the numbers that are in the bottom section there, which obviously may not include all bonuses. So if you actually want to match, just put the single officer on his own up on the ship at the top, and you can double check it that way. But once they're up there, they show it as it's meant to be, and you get your totals just below. Yep, in the sort of pinky mauve, yeah. And then the bonuses, the actual quotas or the targets you have to hit to get your different values. Okay, so as you take officers off, you'll notice they'll come down. So if you highlight, delete, etc., as you drop, and there we go. You see, it actually shows you're only getting 270%, 300%, etc.
So it's actually giving you a real life. So this is a really good tool for you to be able to play with, to obviously find out exactly how you're going to get somewhere near your bonuses. Now this could be really potent on something like, because you can pick which ship as well. So if you go for something like the Borg Cube needs ridiculous stats, so 960,000 to be able to hit max stats on this. So even if I went for some big officers, let's go for Kang, let's go for Khan, which is max, let's go for Krass, let's go for my Riker is maxed. Do you know what I mean? So I've just put in there 5 big attack officers in there, and I've only managed to get up to the 2,250 bonus. Obviously, it does go a hell of a lot higher. So I think that's a really good way for you to sort of work out how you're going to crew your ship without having to do it in game. You can do that here and see exactly where it is. Obviously, you do have the ability as well to add exos. So exos are over here on the left hand side. So whatever exo comp you've got, you can see if we put that in, it then changes the numbers as well. Anything else that you want to add, Stewie, on that? Because I think it's a really good screen.
Yeah, absolutely. If you the bottom by any of the stats, then they actually appear in the same order in the drop down. I've actually made it so that they appear in that order, so they're nice and easy for you to find.
And it won't let you duplicate, so we can't have 3 Kangs on the bridge. It only let us use that once. So I've used the 4, obviously, of the big stat officers. So the first one that I've not on my bridge at the moment is Gorkon. So he's now the top of my list. And if I put him in there, we can see that the next one that will go back to the top is Kang. Because obviously that's the way that I'm sorted down here, because I'm sorted by attack.
And if you change your sort to health, for example.
Yeah, so if we change health and we go back to the top, and then we do the drop down again, we can see my best health officer is currently Sharvanik. That's my current
Makes it
best
nice
health.
And quick for you to find stuff, basically.
When you're trying to play with this, and I'm trying to make sure I'm getting my stats, and then we need some defense, so we can sort by defense. do it that way, and I can pick my best top 3 from the list of defense officers. And look at that. I can't get anywhere near. Max bonus, even if I had all 7 slots, which I don't, on my board cube. I can't even get anywhere close. 960,000 stats is an insane amount.
The beauty of also having that ordered is often you're looking for a main stat, but you're still also just trying to creep up a different stat. And by doing this, you can sometimes see that the top one might not be the best one for you. You might actually want to go for the second or third one down because it's bumping up a secondary stat that you're also needing. So that's visually that's really useful for helping you find your best crews and get your maximum bonuses on ships.
Absolutely. So obviously the top section, really helpful for you to obviously play about with crews. Obviously make sure you're getting your stats and stuff right. You can obviously change your ship. All ships in here are all the way up to G6. So obviously you can do that all the way up in the game. So moving down a little bit further in the roster sheet, of course we can see obviously that we've got the levels and the ranks that have been pulled through. Why is Saru red?
Saru's red because she's rank 5, which means she could be 30, but you haven't got her at 30. So that shows you that you can actually level her up, which is great when you've got experience events.
Fantastic. So you can look down here and you can see, you can find, oh, so I've got some, oh, look at that. I've got 3 levels that I can put into 11 of 11. I've still got 10 levels that I can put into 10D. So when you get an XP event or a domination event, you can use this function rather than, because when you sort by upgradable in the game, it only shows promotion available officers. You'd have to physically look and see, does that level match the max tier? Whereas this, showing them and highlighting them in red, gives you a really good, really quick way of doing it. Now, can I sort this so all the red ones are at the top?
You can actually filter by the red one. So if you click on the little arrow there, and then you filter by color, and then select red, boom.
Look at that. So you can actually do that, filter by the colour, by the red officers. It takes all the other officers out, so you can see exactly how many officers still need XP, or that you can put XP into for domination and other XP spending events. So I think that's a really, really useful tool down at the bottom. Okay, so, and then obviously if you want to go back to be able to see all of your officers again, go back into your filter menu, filter by colour, no filters, and then we get all of our officers back. So we've talked about obviously captain's manoeuvres, below deck abilities, officer abilities. Obviously that's what these are, showing all the current percentages of what your specific officer is giving in those particular areas. You've also got on the right hand side a description of what those captain's manoeuvres, officer abilities are, or if you've got somebody that's got a below deck ability, you can see here it's explaining to you what that below deck ability actually does. We've also got information here about morale and burning, Stewie, and then cause and use. Talk to me about this.
Basically, it's the effects that the officers can create, and you can filter on them using the filters in the same way at the top. So you can actually filter by, if you clear and then select just breach, for example, boom. Okay, then it will tell you whether the officer creates that effect or requires or can use that effect. Okay, now this is true for all but one officer at the moment, and she's the only officer that I believe can do this, so I haven't done any work regarding it, and that's Talana, who actually can do any of the effects. So bear that in mind, that she can actually do all of them, but I can only display one in there. I think I've displayed breach.
But we've got that caveat in there as well. And obviously we've also got the ability, haven't we, to change abilities. So we can look at what the abilities are for each individual person, but we can also change this over to scores. What's this showing us?
Right. We've got a panel of very, very old wise men. Men, and we've basically scored the officers based on a couple of factors. One is their usefulness out of the box, so how useful are they straight away, and then whether they're officers that you should concentrate on leveling up, and these go from rank 1 all the way down to rank 5, and they're color coded as per traffic lights, so green go, red stop.
Okay, brilliant. So yeah, so got that fantastic option there where we can see how people rated them, the people in the know. So change that back to abilities quickly. And the only other thing that we haven't covered is, what are these checkboxes for, Stewie? What are these options that we've got here that we can turn on and off?
The way the game works, when it displays the officer's stats, it only applies them to the officer when they are on a ship or when you're on the crewing screen. If you just look at them in the roster screen, then they don't have any of the abilities actually applied. So when you have a tick to apply bonuses, all of these have the bonuses applied to them. So if you're trying to match them to an officer in game that's not on a ship or you're not in the crew, just remove the tick. And what it will do is it will remove all of the bonuses and it will show you their basic stats. All if you just want to check whether the officers are correct. Now, base stats of officers are normally 100% spot on. When you compare them to the totals that you get on your ship bonuses, sometimes they do go out by between 1 to 3, maybe 4 points sometimes, and that's due to rounding errors when it comes to the multiplications. So just bear that in mind, and I have actually put a slight disclaimer there that they do. Yeah, there we go. So that's what that button's for. It just basically allows you to see what the base stats are or the stats with the bonuses applied. So if you put them back on, the other thing that you might want to see is the next one down, which is what those officers would be at max. So if you click that there, it instantly makes all of your officers 30. See them change there, the ones that aren't 30? There, you see.
So to know which ones you want to work on, obviously you could look at that and think,
basically,
well, I really want to. Is it? I've got 2 health-based officers here. Should I be putting my XP, which is quite limited? Should I be putting that into A or B? Which one's going to give me the most for my investment? Basically, that's
exactly
what
that. And more so, it will show you the effect on a ship if you want to see whether it's going to be enough to pump you up to the next bonus level or not. Okay, and the last one requires a disclaimer. There are some assault base bonuses in the game. The problem is they are always being displayed. So your bonuses include them. They're in the starbase tree, yep, and I forget, that's it. And those will display in game, but they are just a display error. They don't actually take effect, so they're not increasing them. But for the sake of people like me that like to see the numbers match, I've left that on all the time. Okay, so it looks like your stats as if you were doing an assault. Okay, now when they do finally fix that, I'll start shipping the officer tool out without that applied, and you will apply that if you are ever silly enough to try a starbase assault.
I think I'm running out of directives, actually. I think I can only start about 745 now. Cool. Yeah. So that's the roster page. This is the hive of the officer tool. This is where everything's sort of calculated and used and where everything sort of feeds into. And this is like the main page. But we have got lots of other functionalities to this. And we're going to move on to the next one now. But is there anything else that you want to cover on the roster screen before we move on to the all docs?
I think that's it. I mean, the officer abilities at the top in the table. Okay, do you see the little smaller square, the top left?
Yep.
Yep. Right, those are the officers that affect officer stats. So when you some of the Borg ones, like is it 8?
Yep.
Is it 8 of 9? 8 of 11 now? God, 8 of 9, Jesus. Yeah, do you see she basically increases officer health by 100? So those are displayed there.
So we can see what your actual physical bonus is for officers. So we can see that I've got on captains, I've got 2,248% bonus. So it's good to know. So when you're looking at a research and it's got a 50% bonus and you're wondering why it's not having a very pronounced effect, it's because that 50% for me is just getting added to 2,248.
Exactly. And like I said, more so the officers that affect abilities is further to the left. So you can see that she's increased by 100. That stat there, see?
So yeah, so it makes quite a big difference. So yeah, we love that page. But let's move on, and let's move on to the all docs screen. So all docs screen, I can see that we've got a nice, beautiful looking chart here. Talk to me about this one.
Well, this was a request that was made by many people, mostly because they hate me and they want me to have to work out how to do this. And it's an ability to actually set up all your docs. if you want to.
So this is going to allow us basically just sort of to crew out. So if you was going out, for example, for like you wanted to set up for incursions, I think this is where this jumps out to me as an idea. So I want to see, right, I've got officers, I've got a crew up for 3 different strike teams, I want 2 raiding ships, I want this for base defense, but I can only use 1 officer at one time. So basically I just want to see how I'm going to crew up my docks and then keep them in here. That's where I think this is a immediate benefit. That's the one that springs to mind.
Another thing that this demonstration you've just done there has brought to light is the synergy on the ships. If you look above there, it actually shows you when there's a synergy. If it's a double line, then it's a full synergy. If it's a single line, it's half synergy.
So there we can put it with absolute full synergy, exactly the same as in game. Double line if it's full, single line if it's only providing half synergy.
Now, a nice little trick, okay, if you want to fill this sheet in quickly from having played on the roster sheet, you can actually go to the roster sheet, highlight your bridge, officers, that's it, do a copy, go to your all docs and paste values, and you can transfer to there. You can do the same with the lower deck as well.
That's quick. That's quick. So I could use the copy and paste function to be able to fill this in quickly. But like I say, I don't think we need much more talk. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's basically like an 8 docs setup of what's on the top of the roster page. Yeah, amazing. So similar sort of vein, but then move on into saved setups. Obviously, we've got a fair few more of these, haven't we? We've now got 30 rows, is it?
Yeah, people ran out of the 15 rather quickly, apparently. So even though they have preset crews in the game, you players have obviously wanted to have a visual note for themselves outside of the game, and that's what you can do here. And the beauty is there's that little notes section at the side. So for example, when I do it, I put in there the Borg levels that I can actually kill with that particular setup at the moment. So I don't know, obviously with you're hitting your 60s now, but you know, a few ops ago, you needed to remember which ones can I kill again, and then you'd sometimes waste a set of directives hitting high because you hit the wrong ones, basically. So I use that for the notes section up there for things like that.
Yeah, and you also tinker with crews as well. So if you die to an armada and then you change your crew, and you think, right, wow, I've found a crew that finally works. This crew now actually works for me. I'm going to go bang it in my saved setups on here. We can put notes on it, put exactly what ships I had on it. Then next time I go out to run solos, it's a quick reference, and then you can obviously see exactly which officers that you use to do that.
Exactly
Because presets in game, yeah, you get a few, but they are quite buggy. And obviously they don't factor in. Obviously, if you've got people on like away teams and stuff like that, it might not pull through properly. So just to make sure that you are actually using all of the crews and stuff that you want, including all your below deck abilities, this is giving you the ability to save 30 different crews. So we can also select obviously which ship that we want from here as well. So if we go in here, we can start typing Sanctus, and I can click that. That's my main ship, and obviously put it in there. So I know which ship it was. I know what crew it was. I know what target that I did there, and obviously you can give the crew a name as well. So if you was going to be running like base defense and you're running the bold defense, you could have bold defense ship 1, bold defense ship 2, and obviously then over here, and you can obviously pick which crews and ships and all that sort of stuff that you've got. So really, really valuable for you to save a hell of a lot more presets than what you've got in the game. Now up to 30 different presets that you can save on there as well. Next section, moving into preset crews. What do we think here, Stewie?
Well, this is your baby, Lube. You look after this. You keep track of them, and all the mistakes in here are yours. So I'll let you carry on.
Nice disclaimer. So the preset crews, people always say, what crew should I use for this? What crew should I use for this? What's the best one for this? Have you got any ideas for X, Y, and Z? This happens all the time. So what we've done is we've come up with a bank, and I mean a huge bank now. Look at all these of the different preset crews. And to make it easier, we've allowed you to be able to filter. So let's say, for example, you wanted to go out and you wanted to do some you've got an explorer, that's your main ship. You're going to be hitting survey ships, and you're going to go out and hit some hostiles. So you're going to be going out and doing some rep grinding. You can then look, it filters it, and then it allows you to bring all the different crews that will work in that scenario that we've put in there. And then you can, if you want to read a bit more information, you can then select, because it will then adjust this drop down once you've done your filtering. So general 5 and morale crew, and you can read it. So stack the lower decks for health and defense. So it's giving you what to do and a little bit of information. Hostiles, so we're going for 52 plus, the generic crew. Stack defense for Beverly. This crew generally works for 52 plus hostiles, where Chen and Talon are no longer effective. So it's giving you a bit of information, and it allows you to apply these filters to then go and be able to find a crew that might be able to work for you. Now, I will throw my caveat in that I mention on pretty much every single stream video that I ever do. These crews will work for you in certain scenarios, and they won't if your research isn't up to snuff, if your officers are at different levels, if you're at a different ops level, just in general. Do you know what I mean? Your account is your account, and you may find a crew that is slightly better for you. But if you do have any crews that you suggest that are not in this, drop them down in the comments below, and we can get them added to help out other people. But we've tried to make this as sort of intuitive as possible by having these selectors, so that you're not just scrolling through hundreds of crews to try and find it, and give you an idea of what sort of ranks and levels and stuff of your officers that you should have, obviously with the notes and stuff in there. But yeah, this is my baby, and I'm always open to any more ideas or crew loadouts that you think would be really good for certain scenarios. Obviously, we also include, if we just take out these and obviously the hostile generic ones, we've included things like Action, and obviously more recently we've got hostiles for 8472 bio ships. Do you know what I mean? Texas class for the Monavine, Zindi. Do you know what I mean? There's loads and loads of different crews in here that you can use for loads of different scenarios. So just pretty straightforward. I don't think there's much more to say on that, unless there's anything else that you want to add, Stewie.
Well, just to elaborate on the colouring, green is you have the officer and you have it at the suggested level. Amber means that you have the officer, but he's not, or she is not, at the suggested level. And red is you don't have the officer. And if you look at the top where you selected the thing, the crew, just to the right underneath there also has the suggested levels for the officers.
So really good, really intuitive, and like I say, always open to suggestions if anybody's got anything else that we could add into there, but really valuable for players, and I know lots of people do like the preset crews element. So next one then, next tab, we're moving on to the ship screen. Talk to me about this.
Right. Well, this was a screen that was initially set up so that we could work out the bonuses for the roster screen. Okay. But then I thought one thing that's really, really important, and it's something that I'm forever looking up, is the firing patterns of ships. So I added that into here as well, so that we could actually get it in one place, nice and easy to see. We don't have to necessarily jump over to STFC, which also has all this data very nicely presented there as well. Now, what I was then asked to do is to allow players to actually put in their current levels for their ships in the lower section. And one of the limitations of this is that you can only have one of each type of ship. Okay, it's listed the once and that's it. And sure, by all means put it in there. It will give you an idea of where things are, what your max levels, crewing levels are, etc. But it has no real function in the officer tool to actually put your level there, so you can carry on without necessarily doing that, and it still works fine.
So great, so we can see all this functionality, and the one thing I do like about it is that if we change this, you can see the cumulative damage there from the auger. So if I change this to level 40, for example, it's that clever that it will update the bonuses of your ship. So depending on whatever ship level you are at, it actually will increase the ship ability percentage and stuff like that as well. So you can see at a glance what all of your ships actually do, which I think is really good and really intuitive.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's an end of quite a big section there about ships and presets and things. We're now moving on to a slightly different twang, aren't we? We're going to talk about away team assignments, which obviously do have a direct link to officers because of obviously traits and obviously officer stats being such a key part, which is why we include them in the tool. But talk to me, where do you want to start with ATAs?
People use the tool for different things, and it seems to be dependent on where their account is as to what they find helpful for them. And ATAs is a very popular one, especially the analysis side, things like that. So I think the best place to start is in the overview section. Okay. Now, with your import, this should be done automatically, but the traits are all entered or maintained in the lower section.
So we can see here that Warrior, if we look at Beckett Mariner, for example, because this is an away team that we're going to choose to look at today. So Beckett Mariner has Warrior at level 3, it has Manipulative at level 4, and then it has Impulsive at level 6. And similar to how the officers work in the roster tab, we are currently working on implementing where if you don't have a specific trait maxed, then it will show as red. So again, this is going to give you a good tool when you have trait XP spend events. You'll be able to look down here and see where and which officers you've started to plough trait XP into, but you've not yet spent everything that you need to, because there's no direct way to see that in game. So I think it'd be a really good way for you to do that. But yeah, carry on. Talk about this sheet first, Dewey.
There's also a bit of a magic number, if you like, at the end, which is that total of officer trait appearances. What that does is it tells you how many times that set of traits for that officer appear in the ATAs.
Who's the most,
for example,
27.
I don't know.
Beat 27. I think I just saw one with 20. So 27 there. So wow, Andy Billups. He's in 27 different ATAs.
Does
anybody beat? Oh, 28.
Oh, 28. 28.
Carroll.
Carroll's.
Oh, 33. Dixon Hill.
Oof. Well, yeah, Resourceful and Minor. Resourceful is one of the broken ones at the moment. Won't mention that yet.
But you heard it here. Oh, 37. Mud.
Oof.
So you heard it here, folks. The best ATA officer in the game is Mud. Covers 37 different traits.
It's subjective, but yeah.
So what do all these drop downs do?
All right. If you select a mission, so pick a mission you want to talk about. How did I know you were going to pick that? Oh, that's right. You told us before we started recording. That's right.
That's the one. Yeah.
That's the one. So what this tells you gives you some information about the actual ATA down the left-hand side. So it gives you its rarity, its duration. There are some things that can and will likely be changed here in the future, because there are some missions that have various versions with different durations, but it gets very complicated with the data that we've received. So it's not broken, it works well, so I've left it for the moment. Okay. The next bit tells you what the normal rewards are for it, and then the critical rewards, which is a few critical the mission itself. And then for those that are more interested in the numbers, it then tells you the minimum and the maximum crit value and the point value per trait point, plus the cost to actually max. Okay.
So yeah, I think that's a really good point. And obviously when we're looking at these, we say about 26 points. That means that you need like 26 levels of the individual traits to be able to max this out. But what's really good to reference is that the point values are linear, which means that you get the exact same increase in your critical chance if you upgrade a tier 1 trait. Whereas if you upgrade a tier 4 trait, you get the exact same amount. So for this, it's 3.85% added to your critical chance for every single trait you upgrade, regardless of the trait level. So like, for example, if you're looking at this, and when we go into choosing your crews, you would always upgrade the trait 1s and trait 2s, and then the trait 3s, and then finally the trait 4s, because you're getting the same value at trait 1 to trait 4, which I think is quite a nice addition, don't you?
It is. It also made us do our advice right at the beginning, in the early days of ATAs, telling people not to waste their trait XP on greens, basically on the green officers, because we thought it's just a waste. It turns out it isn't, because those 4 points that you can get in there, or sorry, 3 points, isn't it, that you can get in there, are very much worthwhile, just as much as 3 points in a tier 2 or a tier 3.
Exactly. And obviously what this chat's also showing us is it's obviously giving us what the different tiers of the traits are, the number of officers that have those specific traits, and then down in the list it highlights any officer with that particular trait. So we can see that Avix has got Survivor, which is our trait 4. Then we can look down, we can see Minor, so we can see that in the roster screen. But talk to me about this side, all the greens and reds.
Right, well, basically that side of the screen tells you a breakdown of the officers that have each of those traits, so trait 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now trait 1, 2, 3 and 4 match across the the tiers. If you can see the bottom section where it says impulsive, intimidating, minor, and survival in the same order.
Yep.
Now, the reason why it's displayed like that is it shows you officers clearly that span across more than one trait. So for this instance, we've got Nero that's across two. So in one officer, you're covering two traits, which is great. Okay. It also allows you to see if there are other officers that might be doing the same. So you might want to concentrate on them for this particular mission because it's covering more than one area. Green means that you already have traits in them, and the number in the brackets is the level at which you already have those traits.
So it's basically showing us that obviously I have currently got this trait. Beckett Mariner is currently at level 6, and the maximum level for these is 9. So we can see Beckett Mariner and Nero, they're both 6 out of 7s, and then the two that I use for this mission specifically, which are Nero and Pan, they're both at level 4, so they're both at the maximum, because these are both tier 2 traits. We can see we've got 2 tier 2 traits and 2 tier 3 traits, so none of them are tier 1. So you can see I've still got a little bit that I can do with Nero and Beckett Mariner. And then obviously the final table of this, obviously the top ATA scores. This is basically showing me the officers that have the highest stats that could contribute towards the main stat, and obviously the secondary stats as well. So when you look at an away team assignment, your percentage chance of completing the mission itself is dependent on stats, nothing to do with traits. That's all about the critical. And if you've got like a main stat being defense, like we have for this one, and then the other two, so attack and health, will only give you 0.5 points towards that stat, whereas defense will count as 1 point per stat. That's basically how that is calculated. So this is giving you an idea of the officers. Now in this particular mission, because we need 3 officers to be able to cover all 4 traits, it's maybe not hugely relevant, but let's say you had an assignment that you could cover with 1 or 2 officers. You could then look down this sheet and think, well, 5 of 11 would be the best third officer to give me the most stats, to get the most rewards.
That's correct, yeah.
Out of that particular assignment. So a good little key reference there, not necessarily for this particular away team assignment, but obviously very good for others that don't need 3. So where do you want to go next, Stewie? We're going into ATA analysis?
The analysis, yeah, this is
okay, talk me through this.
This is, as the name suggests, where you can actually analyze your different ATAs based on rewards, officers, etc. I mean, one of the questions that we get a lot is which are the best ATAs to go for, and how do I use the ATA screen? And we always tell them that the best place to start is with the rewards. Okay, the first thing you should do is decide what you want from your ATA. Okay, so if you go down here, you will actually select what you want, and you'll get a list of all of the ATAs that give the selected reward, in this case the away team's credits. At this point, it's worth noting that anything that has a red in it means that the reward is a critical reward.
So like lead expedition, obviously its main payout is ATA credits, and its critical is that as well. So it's showing in there twice. So if you've got a red that's showing twice and it's the same name, that means that it's the same reward for both parts of that mission, which obviously lead expedition has both of those. I think that's the only away team assignment that actually has the same rewards for both from memory. So we're starting off at what we actually physically want to get out of them with the reward.
Right. So the next step is you then take that piece of information, if you like, here, and you go over to the overview screen again, and you put in that into here. Okay. So you found which ATA you're wanting to build your officers to. You come in here, and then you start looking at the list of officers. As we mentioned just before, you're looking for officers that have similar skills, similar traits. Now, some of the things that you might want to do is actually search on the traits themselves. So you've got your impulsive, you've got your intimidating minor. Yeah. So if you go back to your analysis and go to the traits, what you can now do is have a look at ATAs that have, officers that have them and the matching missions. Okay, so you can start saying, okay, well, I want to go for this officer because it's going to be used in
Amazing. And obviously we've got
Okay.
here a selection between top officers and top traits. What's this?
If you do the top officers first, which is one that's showing, as we said before, it shows you the so that answers your question. There is a way of checking it.
Yeah,
Look
forget
at
the
Trip
last
coming
bit.
in there
Forget the
nice
last
and
bit.
late. Yeah, Trip's coming in there. It's a late entry, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
And
34.
there's one of your little favourites, Dixon Hill there.
Love Dixon Hill.
And if you do the drop down, you can switch that to top traits, and it shows you which traits are used the most in the ATAs. So again, it's helping you build a picture of where you think you want to go. So for example, engineer, it appears to be on paper a great trait to have, because it's used in quite a few. So you'd go across to here, just like you've done, and it will show you all the missions that use them and all the officers that have it. So I mean, this is literally the engine of the ATA screens. Okay, so it's a useful one, and the more you get used to it, the better is that better results you'll get from it, basically.
Because the drips are so small, aren't they? I mean, there's obviously main ways to source that is obviously you're going to get your daily drip by completing an away team assignment, but then you've also got the uncommon chest for the Dominion solo armadas. That's a fantastic source of trait XP, but it's still it is a very, very finite resource that you don't get lots and lots of.
I tell you what, Lou, why don't you put reward trait XP?
So we could look at that. There's only one.
Only one.
How sad is that? So officer training again. So if we wanted to look at what officers could we do to try and get more out of that, we're back into the overview. Officer training, we can look and then we can find, oh look, so I've actually got 3 of the different traits needed. So I've got Beckett Mariner, I've got Michael Burnham Mudd, both at rank 3, and I've got William Riker, both at 3 as well.
Right.
So obviously how I could use. Go on.
One thing that I want to mention here, and we'll only briefly go over it because it may get fixed, so we don't want to dwell on it too much. But if you notice, the resourceful number is all out of whack. Okay, basically, in the update that saw us getting the Ent-E officers, Scopely made a bit of a boo-boo, and they have actually assigned or incorrectly assigned traits to some of the officers. So a tier 3 trait has been put into a tier 2 slot, and a tier 1 into a tier 2, etc., etc. Now what that does is it screws up the numbers a little bit, because obviously it's thinking, when it's doing its calculation to see what tier it is, it's saying, well, it's not tier 1 because I've got some stuff in tier 2, and it's not tier 2 because I've got stuff in tier 1, so you end up with this like silly hybrid number. If it's not going to be fixed by them, then I will try and find out some way of maybe getting around that. Okay, but at the moment, resourceful is one of them. I think there's about 3 traits. Psionic is another one. Okay, now what this does mean is that the trait that's a tier 3 trait that's been placed into the tier 2 slot, or even there might be one that's in the tier 1 slot, can actually level that up cheap. Okay, so you can actually get, I think Psionic is one. Go to your analysis, and you pick psionic. Basically, Mitchell's correct. He has it set correctly, so it's in the tier 3 slot. But if you notice that the bracket for Troy is blank,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's in the incorrect slot for her. It's actually, I think, 2 or 1. So you can actually get it to, I think, level 4 by only having to do the tier 1
2.
traits and then go straight into it.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas normally you'd have to do all of the tier 1, all the tier 2 before you could then get to tier 3 to get the psionics ability.
So
Okay.
using a little bit of a bug to obviously work to your advantage a little bit, because they're always down, aren't they?
Yeah, and in the understanding that they may fix it, in which case you'll end up with 4 points into a trait that you don't want, but that's the risks
It's
you
a
take.
cheap one,
You know?
and it's a cheaper one. It's a cheaper input.
It's a cheap,
so that's not bad. So obviously we've decided which missions that we want to go for. We know which officers that we want to do. We then need to catalogue them, don't we?
We do.
And how
so what we
that?
do is you pick up your lead expedition. Yep, just highlight it and start typing it in. There we go. Okay, so this gives you the summary, okay, of the thing, the ATA as it is, which traits it uses, gives you the summary of the points again, okay. Now, if you look here, as you put in the names, it will show you which traits it uses and currently what level you have them at. So beneath Nero, it shows that you have the T2 trait that it needs at level 4 and the T3 trait at level 6. Okay, with Mariner, T3 trait at 6, and then you've got Pan T2 trait at 4. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now if you want to, beneath Nero, select T37. Okay, oh, it is 9 actually. You were right.
You heard that. Put it on a t-shirt. Make a soundbite.
Yeah, you were right. Right. Doesn't happen often, but you were right. And if you now look at the left-hand side, it tells you how much it's going to cost you to upgrade from where you are now to what you've just selected in there. So 42,000 trait XP. You would have to pump into Nero to be able to take him from T3 to T7. And it will show you the increase in the crit chance by doing that.
So we're going from 77 to 81%. So if I wanted to get to 100% on this, I know that I would need to do both Beckett and Nero up to 9. But if I wanted to just take Nero up to 9, it'd get me to 89%. And then obviously I know that I need to get Beckett up to tier 9 to then get that up to 100%. And that's going to cost me 434,000 trait XP to be able to actually do that and get that to be an absolute guarantee. And this obviously gives you the ability then to obviously store up to 10 away team assignments that you can put in. You can put the crews in that work for you, the ones that you've ploughed the trait XP into, so that you can use this as a quick reference tool to be able to come back and see exactly how you crew it whilst you get used to them. You do find that it becomes a bit of muscle memory after a while, doesn't it?
Yeah, you kind of. So backup, I don't know if you do, but I have backup officers where if you've got an officer that you know you're going to be using, you've got a secondary officer that has a similar trait but maybe a slightly lower value, or the same value but slightly lower stats. Good example is it the trade agreement, or one of those that has the option for either Kirk or you can use Burnham?
Yes.
I forget which one it is, where
Yeah,
Kirk is actually the better option stat-wise, but you might be needing to send Kirk out in your ships for some reason. So
definitely. And I do cover this.
Instead.
I mean, I've got a 4+1 strategy, so basically 5 ATAs, 4 that everybody should be doing and 1 that some people should be doing. And I will put a link at the end of this video to my 4+1
Great
strategy video so people obviously can see what I do, which officers that I use, and why I use those officers. So if you've got no idea where to even start, you can use that video as maybe a little bit of a leapfrog for you to know where you need to go from that. And that's the ATA section, so really happy. So the final tab that we're going to talk about is the migration. We covered this at the start of the video about physically getting your information into the officer tool. However, there are certain things, as you've seen, like the ATAs, ships and things like that, that will not be filtered into Spox Club. So we need to do that manually, and I'm just going to really quickly show you how to do that. So what you will do is when you decide to upgrade to the next version, so when the new version of the Officer tool comes out, you will find that obviously this sheet is quite big. It's got lots of green areas. So if we look at the ATA section for an example, you will see this big green box here. All you need to do is go to the export section. You need to copy the entire of that green box, and then you will then paste values into the import section of the new sheet. So when you next month download M65, you will then go back to M64, you will copy the export section in its entirety, and then in the top left hand side, as we always have done from the start, paste special, values only, paste values into there, and then that will update and bring through all of your ATA information. Then you do the same with the saved ship setups and all that sort of stuff as well. Down the bottom, you've got obviously the ship exports. Obviously, we put my auger level in earlier, copy the entire green box, and then paste it into the new version of the Officer tool. And that's the Officer tool as a whole. Obviously, I know this has been quite a long one. There's a hell of a lot of functionality in this, and if you've got any questions after this, please just join us on our Discord and ask those questions. We are more than willing to help out whilst you get going with this, but once you start using it, it will become a very key part to your life in Star Trek Fleet Command. I want to say a massive shout out to Stewie again, and a big thank you for joining me on this video. It's only taken us a couple of days to decide that we were going to do this and to actually physically get it recorded, so a massive thank you to you, mate. Have you got anything that you want to say?
Can I go now?
You can absolutely go now, and we are going to bug out. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the like button on the way out.
It's been emotional.
It has been totally emotional. Show your love to Stewie by clicking on that donate by PayPal button. Get him some cash across so that he can continue to make these fantastic tools as we go. But thank you so much for watching. See you next time, and remember that everything is better with lube. Take care and have a wonderful day.
Oopsie.
Oopsie.
I did it for you.